Hey everyone! Welcome to Be the Change. My name is Lily Mott, and today I'm going to be talking about how change comes from strong relationships. This episode features an organization called Changeist, based in Los Angeles, California. Changeist's mission is to build a community of diverse young people that utilize their personal agency to create a more just society. I first found Changeist when I scrolled through the list of Obama Foundation Fellows and found Mario Fedolin. Mario Fedolin is the CEO of Changeist and started the organization as a way of investing in our future. Children and the young people of the world are our greatest resource, and Mario Fedolin wanted to make sure that the young people of Los Angeles had a supportive community outside of their schools and their homes. Changeist later expanded to include programming in Stockton, California as well, and they now engage over 200 young people, ranging from 11 to 26 years old each year. I had the opportunity to speak with Omar Sanchez, who was an AmeriCorps member for Changeist in Stockton. Omar graduated from college last year, and Changeist was a great outlet for him to engage in social justice activism while working with young people. Omar worked primarily with middle and high school age students, and I had the opportunity to ask Omar about the background and the mission of Changeist.
It was founded by Mario, who is the CEO of our organization. And so Changeist was originally called Big Citizen Hub, but essentially it was for young people to have a space to organize around issues that really matter to them and to put their story forward. And because a lot of programs do kind of we mentor young people and they assume that young people don't already have a voice. Changeist is trying to do something different where we assume that young people aren't these blank canvases. They are young people who come with experiences from their households, from school, from every place that they've been, and they see police brutality, and they see racism, and they see classism, and they see these different issues that are happening in their communities. And so they bring that to their spaces, and we're trying to do a close mentor system where we uplift their stories and put their stories first and foremost and let them lead in the way that they want to lead. And so that's kind of the idea behind it, is that we want the young people to lead in ways that they want, and then we create the space for them to discuss in ways that they see fit while giving them the resources that they need.
Often our society thinks of children as blank canvases in the way that Omar mentioned. But Changeist tries to encourage children to tap into their own backgrounds and their own stories through their programming. Each Saturday from January to July, young people meet together and engage in conversations, complete team-based activities, and serve a minimum of 100 hours by the end of the session. The participants are split up into groups based on their social justice interests, and then their training focuses on diving deeper and exploring that issue. I asked Omar what Changeist is hoping that students learn from their time in the program. This was his response.
By the end of the programming, we hope that our young people have the tools to be able to take their story forward. Our modeling for Changeist is in three main parts. So story of self, story of us, and story of now. Self is this young person's own story. Story of us is their story in relation to their community or one of their communities and why that matters. And the story of now is the action piece, right? Where they engage in the community, and they would be doing either an externship that we'd place them in, or they would be doing some type of project in the community. Because a lot of people assume that young people have to wait until they get a high school degree, a college degree, some doctorate, or actually do that work. But realistically, we want to make sure that they know that they have that power now. And because they're in school, they have a lot more power to actually change the structures that are happening around them in every stage of their development.
Changeist provides additional civic education and creates a space for young people to discuss serious issues in an accepting environment each Saturday. In a past episode, I ranted about the state of public civic education in this country. And to quickly sum up that rant for you, our civics education classes just aren't working for us. period. Changeist was created as a way to provide more support for students who aren't receiving the attention they need in their classrooms. I asked Omar to share about why it is important for students to have a place, aside from their schools and their homes, of course, where they can organize and share their voices.
The importance of Changeist being in the city is that it gives these young people a space to actually talk about issues that their schools might not talk about. Because when you are at a school, you might have some amazing teachers in some of the classrooms, right? But when they move from different classes throughout the day, that only means about an hour and a half of face time that you're getting with one student. And in that hour and a half time that you're talking with one student, that's not a whole lot of time when you have 8-hour school days and then they go home. And so in that time period, these students, they learn, they gain, but then they might go to someone else who doesn't care as much. And so I think that's the value of having a place like Changeist. Because although Stockton, some of the schools might not be perfect, we have teachers who are great, who care, but don't have the support or can't give the level of support that some of these young people require, or a space for them to talk. We try to give them that space so that they can talk, so that they have their needs met with us at Changeist, so that when they come into our space, if they want to talk about racism, we'll engage in those conversations. If they want to discuss things that are going on at their school, we can engage with those conversations and help them find ways to actually engage in that and do work around that and make space for that, so that we can really hold space for our community members and help them find some healing space and then empowerment, space for empowerment. And that's kind of why Changeist is so important and has taken so many roots into Stockton. We don't have a space like that for young people where they actually talk about the issues that they've been seeing and be able to name those issues that they're actually seeing.
It was so great to talk with Omar about his experience with Changeist, because he was obviously very passionate and committed to his AmeriCorps work with the organization. I, of course, had to end our conversation with the question, what advice do you most want to share with other young people who want to make a change? And these were Omar's words of wisdom.
Go out and do what you need to do. You're young, we're young, we are change makers, and we see things in our community that need change and need attention. And when there are issues like people getting murdered on the streets because of the color of their skins, because they're Black, because they are historically in places that have been oppressed in our community, we are the ones who should stand up and do something about it, especially if you're a college student, especially if you're a community member. If you're someone who sees it, do something about it, because it's not just on those people who are being affected by it. It's on us as people who are one united community to actually stand up for each other, because someday we might need someone to assist us. And if we don't stand up for each other today, what would that relationship piece look like if we don't stand up for someone we really care about now? So I say stand up and do something about it in a capacity that you're totally able to, because there's so many factors, and let's make some change happen.
This idea of relationships and the importance of standing up for your community members really struck a chord with me. These days, people are more connected than we've ever been before. From telephones to FaceTime to social media and even air travel, it has become possible for people all over the country and all over the world to form meaningful relationships with one another. However, we've also seen that while many have embraced this new reality of a global community, other people have shrunk in fear from the world around them and have approached people of different races, cultures, or nationalities with hatred. That type of life, one filled with hatred and fear of the unknown, is the enemy of change. And unfortunately, far too many Americans think this way. Donald Trump fueled those feelings in many Americans, and his push for nationalism and all of his America First rhetoric has no place in today's global community. Instead, we should be focused on cultivating relationships and supporting each other, regardless of race, gender, nationality, or our other differences. Rather than focusing on building walls and enforcing borders, let's work on learning more about people who are different from us in order to create a more equitable society for everyone. Connect with people in your life who may seem different and learn about their hopes, their goals, their fears, and their hardships. because at the end of the day, we are all more similar than we are different. So, just to sum all of this up, I really encourage you to learn about others and cultivate new connections because, in the spirit of Changeist, change comes from strong relationships. Thank you so much for listening to this episode, and you can connect with Changeist on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at ChangeistLA. For more information about Changeist, check out their website, which is linked in the description of this episode. If you want to talk about anything I mentioned, please reach out to me by email at lily@bethechangepodcast.org or on Instagram at bethechangepodcast. Tune in for my next episode, but until then, be the change you wish to see in the world. Bye, guys!